The frozen night. The wind howled across the dead planet like a living thing. Sharp ice dust cut through the air, spinning in white circles that swallowed everything. A single human figure pushed through the storm. His armor cracked, his oxygen low, his face hidden behind a frozen visor. Evan Cole was a soldier of Earth's Frontier Division. His dropship had crashed 2 hours ago after a surprise attack. He didn't know who fired first, the humans or the Seraphim, but he knew one thing. Everyone else on his team was gone. The world around him was silent, except for the wind. His boots crunched against snow that glittered like crushed glass. Above, broken pieces of a burning starship drifted through a blood-red sky. He checked his scanner. No signal, no heat signatures. The system blinked red, temperature falling. Life support critical. Evan cursed under his breath and pulled his coat tighter. Then he froze. Through the wind, a faint sound broke the silence. Not the hum of a drone, not the crackle of fire, and oh my, it was softer. A whimper. A cry. It came again. Weak, trembling, almost human. Evan lifted his rifle and moved carefully through the wreckage. Metal beams, shattered glass, and melted snow marked the crash site. He followed the sound until he saw a small shadow moving behind a half-buried escape pod. When he got closer, he stopped breathing. A child lay there, not human. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly like moonlight on water. Her silver hair stuck to her face and her thin arms were covered in frost. Her eyes were closed and she was shaking violently, whispering in a soft musical voice. Evan lowered his weapon slowly. His helmet AI flickered to life. Warning, unknown DNA, species in Seraphim. Hostile classification, Alpha. Evan stared. The Seraphim. The enemy. The same species that had destroyed entire human fleets with thought energy alone. And here she was, a little girl freezing to death in the snow. He hesitated. His mission orders were clear. If you encounter a Seraphim, eliminate immediately. But as he watched her lips tremble and her hands clutch at the air, something inside him shifted. She wasn't a monster. She was just a child. Evan turned off the warning light and knelt beside her. "Hey," he said quietly, his voice rough. "It's okay. You're safe." The girl didn't answer. She just whimpered again. Without another thought, Evan pulled off his thermal coat and wrapped it around her small body. The AI protested. "Warning. Body temperature dropping. Exposure risk critical." He ignored it. He pressed a button on his wrist to activate a low heat field inside the coat. The girl's trembling slowed. Her breathing steadied a little. Evan brushed the snow off her face. Her skin was warm now, glowing softly under his touch. Her eyes opened slowly, bright silver, like starlight trapped in water. She looked up at him. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Then she whispered one single word, her voice barely a breath. "Mother." Evan blinked. "What?" But before he could speak again, the ground trembled beneath him. He looked up and red lights in the distance. Enemy drones! He lifted the girl in his arms and started running. Snow exploded behind him as laser beams sliced through the storm. He dove behind a fallen shuttle wing, panting. "Hang on," he muttered, pulling the coat tighter around her. The girl's eyes fluttered open again. She touched his wrist and suddenly, his visor cleared. The frost that had blinded him melted away in seconds. His suit's battery, which was dying moments ago, blinked green. She had done something impossible. Evan stared at her, confused. "You fixed that?" The girl didn't speak. She just looked afraid, clutching his coat with tiny hands. Outside, the storm grew louder. The drones passed overhead, scanning. He held his breath, waiting until the red lights disappeared into the snow. When it was safe, he leaned back against the wreck and looked at her again. She was asleep now, breathing softly, her glowing skin fading to a pale blue. Evan sighed. "What have I gotten myself into?" He checked his communicator. Static. Then, through the static, a faint voice broke in. Human command. "All units be advised. Seraphim activity detected. One of their queens is searching for a missing offspring. If you encounter a Seraphim child, do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Her mother is still alive." Evan stared at the device, heart pounding. The child in his arms shifted slightly, whispering again, "Mother." He felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. He looked down at her, so small, so fragile, and thought of the millions who had died fighting her kind. He could end it right now. One pull of the trigger, but he couldn't. Instead, he adjusted his grip and whispered, "We're getting out of here. I don't know who you are, kid, but I'm not leaving you to die." As he stepped into the storm again, lightning cracked across the blood-red sky. Somewhere far above, a dark ship moved behind the clouds, unseen but watching. Evan didn't notice. He just kept walking, carrying the girl, wrapped in his coat, through the endless snow. Behind them, a faint light appeared in the sky, a beacon pulsing slowly, like a heartbeat. It wasn't human. It wasn't friendly, and if Evan had known who the girl's mother was, he might have dropped her right there, but he didn't. He just kept walking into the frozen night, and the universe would remember that single choice for centuries. The storm raged on without mercy. Evan Cole fought against it step by step, his boots sinking into the deep snow. The alien child and the little blue-skinned girl lay silent in his arms, wrapped tightly in his coat. The temperature outside was dropping fast, but he could feel warmth coming from her, faint but steady. The planet's name was Izera 9, a frozen battlefield that had seen too many wars. Once a mining colony, now it was a graveyard of broken ships and burnt dreams. Evan's helmet scanner flashed red warnings. Oxygen low. Shelter required. He looked ahead through the white storm and spotted a dark shape in the distance, maybe a hill or a ruin. He adjusted his grip on the girl and kept moving. The wind screamed around him, as if the planet itself wanted to bury them alive. Behind him, far away, something exploded. A dull flash of red light. Drones. They were still searching for survivors. Evan crouched low and hid behind the remains of a cargo sled. Through the swirling snow, he could see small glowing eyes, red dots moving slowly through the storm. Enemy drones were scanning the area one by one like wolves hunting scent. He whispered to the girl, "Stay quiet. Don't move." She didn't reply, but he could feel her small hand gripping his sleeve, trembling. The drones came closer. Evan held his breath. Then, just as one drone turned toward them, the girl's body began to glow faintly again. Soft blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Evan's eyes widened. "Stop that. They'll see us," he hissed. But then something strange happened. The drone's red light flickered. Its scanner went blind. It hovered for a moment, confused, then turned away, and as if it couldn't see them anymore. Evan blinked in shock. "What did you just do?" The girl whispered weakly, "They can't see, if I don't want them to." Then she closed her eyes again and went limp. Evan stared at her glowing face. She was more than a child, she was something powerful, something dangerous. He waited until the last drone passed, then stood and started moving again. Hours later, he reached the dark shape he had seen, a half-collapsed bunker buried under snow. He kicked open the frozen door and stumbled inside. The air was still. Cold but safe. Old steel walls, cracked screens, and broken crates filled the small underground room. He laid the girl down on an old blanket and collapsed beside her, panting hard. He removed his helmet. Steam poured out as warm breath hit the cold air. For the first time, he could see her clearly. She looked peaceful now, almost human, except for the faint light under her skin. Evan pulled a small heat pack from his survival belt and set it near her. The soft glow reflected off her silver hair. He sat back and sighed. "What are you, kid?" he whispered. The girl stirred. "Lyra," she murmured. He leaned forward. "What?" "My name is Lyra," Evan blinked. "Lyra, okay, I'm Evan." She gave a weak smile, barely there. "Evan of Earth." He frowned. "How do you know that?" She looked away. "Mother told me." Evan's chest tightened. "Mother." The word again. He remembered the message he'd heard earlier. The Seraphim Queen is searching for her daughter. Could this girl really be her child? He stood and turned on the bunker's old radio system. Static filled the air, but through the noise he caught pieces of a transmission. Seraphim Queen sighted in orbit, searching for missing offspring. Human units ordered to exterminate any Seraphim life forms. Evan turned off the radio. His stomach sank. They were both targets now, hunted by both sides. He looked at Lyra again. She was awake, watching him with quiet eyes. "You're not safe here," he said. Lyra nodded slowly. "She will come for me." "Your mother?" Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. "Yes, she always knows where I am." A sudden low rumble shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. Evan grabbed his rifle and ran to the door. Outside, through the snowstorm, a giant shadow passed across the sky. Not a human ship. Sleek, curved, glowing like molten glass, seraphim design. Evan's breath caught. "Your mother's ship," he whispered. Lyra stood behind him, her small hand clutching his coat. "If she sees you, she will kill you." Evan glanced down at her. "Then let's make sure she doesn't." He pulled up his hood, adjusted his armor, and packed his gear fast. Lyra tried to walk, but her legs trembled. He lifted her again. As he carried her out into the storm, the ground began to shake from distant impacts. Searchlights from above cut through the blizzard like knives. Evan moved from shadow to shadow, his boots silent against the snow. Each time a light swept near, Lyra's glow faded, making them invisible. They worked together without words, the soldier and the alien child. Finally, they reached the edge of a frozen ravine. At the bottom was a narrow tunnel, maybe a mining shaft. It might lead to safety. Evan looked back one last time. Far above, the Queen's ship hovered, its massive engines humming like thunder. A voice echoed faintly through the wind, and soft yet powerful. "My daughter, I will find you." Lyra shivered and buried her face against Evan's chest. He tightened his hold and whispered, "Not tonight." Then he jumped into the ravine, snow flying around them. The cold swallowed them both. Above, the Queen's ship paused. Its scanners swept the mountains, searching. But the tunnel was already closing behind them, hidden by the storm. Deep inside the dark, Evan switched on his helmet light and looked at Lyra. She was pale, tired but alive. Her silver eyes glowed faintly as she whispered, "You saved me." Evan looked ahead into the endless tunnel. "Let's hope I can keep doing that," he said quietly. The sound of the storm faded away as they disappeared underground. Two fugitives from two worlds, bound by one impossible secret, and above them, in the dark clouds, the Seraphim Queen whispered to the stars, "Find the human who carries her. Bring me his heart." Darkness surrounded them. The tunnel stretched endlessly, echoing every sound, the crunch of boots, the soft hum of Evan's suit, and the faint breathing of the alien girl in his arms. Evan Cole moved slowly, his light cutting through the dust-filled air. He had no map, no signal, and no idea where the tunnel led. All he knew was that the surface wasn't safe anymore. The tunnel sloped downward deeper into the frozen planet. The walls were metal, old and rusted, remnants of an abandoned mining facility from decades ago. He placed Lyra down on a pile of blankets he'd found near a broken generator. Her skin still glowed faintly in the dark, painting the walls with a soft blue light. "Are you warm enough?" he asked quietly. She nodded, her silver eyes reflecting his helmet light. "I am better." Evan sat beside her, removing his helmet. Steam drifted from his breath. He checked his wrist communicator. Still no connection to command. "Static, just like before," he sighed. "We need to find a working signal. Maybe deeper down there's still power." Lyra tilted her head, curious. "Why do you want to talk to them?" "They will tell you to kill me." Her voice was soft but sharp, like she already knew the truth. Evan didn't answer right away. He looked at the floor, then said, "Because maybe someone up there can help us." "Help you," Lyra frowned. "Humans fear us. They call us monsters." Evan hesitated. "Maybe some of us do, but I don't." For a moment, silence filled the tunnel. Then Lyra smiled faintly. "Mother used to say, 'There are hearts even among fire.'" He raised an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" She shrugged. "You'll see." They continued moving deeper into the tunnels. After some time, they reached a large metal door marked Control Station Beta. Evan forced it open with his shoulder. Inside was a dusty control room filled with broken screens and dead machines. He set Lyra on a chair and walked over to the console. "If I can restart power, maybe I can send a signal," he said. He connected his suit cable to the control panel. Sparks flew. The room lights flickered, then came to life. Dim, yellow, but working. The screens blinked and showed a map of the mining tunnels. Evan leaned closer. "There's a communication array 2 levels below. If it still works..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Hope had returned. Then suddenly, one of the screens started showing static again, but not from the system. "From space." A voice came through the speakers, faint at first, then clear. "This is Command Unit 17 to all survivors on Isera 9. Be advised, Seraphin Queen is searching for her lost daughter. All human units are to shoot on sight any alien presence. Repeat, shoot on sight. Evan froze. He felt Lyra's eyes on him, watching, waiting for his reaction. He turned off the screen. They don't know what they're doing, he muttered. Lyra's voice trembled slightly. They will kill us both, he looked at her. Not if I can help it. Before he could say more, another sound filled the room. A low rumble from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then a soft blue light flashed across one of the screens, replacing the human message. Signal detected. Identification. Seraphin Royal Beacon. Evan stepped back. What the hell? Lyra gasped. Mother. Her small hands shook as she touched the glowing screen. The light grew stronger, forming patterns, circles, and symbols Evan couldn't read. The room vibrated. His helmet AI spoke. Energy surge detected. Quantum frequency match, Seraphin origin. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. She's calling me. Evan grabbed her shoulder gently. If she finds us, we're both dead. She won't hurt me. Maybe not you, he said quietly. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining. Then run. Leave me. Evan shook his head. Not a chance. I made a promise. The room lights flickered again, this time not from the machines. A massive shadow moved across the wall like something huge was passing over the surface above them. Evan looked at the screen. A radar pulse showed a large ship, descending. The Seraphin Queen was coming. He turned off all power immediately. The room fell into darkness again. Only Lyra's faint glow remained. Stay close, he whispered. They slipped back into the tunnels, moving quietly. Behind them, the console flickered one last time, and a message appeared in alien script. Lyra glanced back and translated softly. She knows you're with me. Evan's jaw tightened. Then we keep moving. They walked for what felt like hours, deeper into the planet's frozen core. Evan found an old storage room filled with mining tools, and they decided to rest. As Lyra drifted to sleep, Evan sat nearby, thinking. His hands trembled slightly. He had fought in wars, seen entire planets burn, but this was different. He wasn't sure who the enemy was anymore. He looked at Lyra sleeping, her small form wrapped in his coat. Her breathing was calm, peaceful. She didn't look like a weapon. She looked like a child who had lost her mother. He whispered softly, We'll find a way out, kid. I promise. But outside, deep in the storm, the Queen's voice echoed through the air, carried by the wind itself. Evan Cole of Earth, you have what belongs to me. Return her, or I will burn your world. Evan's eyes snapped open. The voice wasn't through a radio. It was inside his head. He looked at Lyra. She was awake now, eyes wide with fear. She found you. Evan stood, rifle ready, as the tunnel walls began to tremble. Ice cracked and faint blue veins of energy crawled along the floor. Then we run, he said. He grabbed Lyra's hand, and they sprinted deeper into the darkness as the Queen's voice thundered again. Louder this time, shaking the ground. You cannot hide from a mother. The tunnel shook like an earthquake was tearing through the frozen planet. Dust rained from the ceiling. The walls cracked and groaned. Evan Cole grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her forward through the darkness. Move, he shouted. We have to get out before this whole place collapses. Behind them, the deep rumble turned into a roar. Blue light poured through the cracks, not from fire, but from pure energy. It looked alive, crawling like veins through the stone. Lyra stumbled but held tight to Evan's hand. She's here, she gasped. Evan didn't ask who. He already knew. They turned a corner and burst into a vast underground chamber. It was once a mining bay. Huge cranes hung frozen in place, metal beams twisted and broken. In the center of the chamber was an old elevator shaft leading up. That's our way out, Evan said. He hit the panel, dead. He cursed under his breath and looked around for another option. Lyra stepped forward and placed her glowing hand on the broken panel. Instantly, sparks flared. The lift lights came alive. The machine groaned, then started moving upward. Evan stared. You can control machines? Lyra shook her head weakly. Not control. Wake them. The elevator rose slowly, creaking. Evan kept his rifle ready, scanning the shadows. His gut told him they weren't alone. Halfway up, a loud hum filled the shaft. Evan looked up. A small orb of blue light hovered above them, then split into 2, then 4. Drones. Seraphim scouts. He fired 3 quick bursts. 2 drones shattered, glowing sparks falling like stars, but more appeared surrounding them. Lyra screamed as one beam hit the elevator floor, melting through metal. Evan grabbed her and jumped, landing hard on a side platform. The lift exploded behind them, showering them in smoke and flame. They ran through another tunnel. This one steeper, colder. Far above, thunder echoed again, and through a crack in the rock, Evan could see the sky, glowing with blue fire. The Seraphim Queen had arrived. Her ship hung low over the surface like a living storm. Lightning rippled around it, and huge pillars of light reached down, melting snow and stone alike. Her voice followed, deep, calm, and terrifying. "You took my child. You hide her from me. Return her, human, and I will let you live." Evan froze. The voice wasn't through his ears. It was inside his skull again, shaking his mind. He pressed his hand to his temple. "Get out of my head!" Lyra's voice was small, full of pain. "She doesn't mean to hurt you." "She's calling me." Evan looked at her. "If she finds us, she'll kill me. Maybe both of us." Lyra's eyes shimmered. "She will never hurt me, but she will destroy you to protect me." Evan's chest tightened. "Then we have to make her see reason." Lyra shook her head sadly. "She doesn't listen." "Not anymore." A sudden crash cut their words short. A blast tore open the ceiling, and a beam of light shot down from the Queen's ship. It carved a glowing circle into the rock, and something descended, tall, silver, and shining. It wasn't the Queen herself. It was a Seraphim warden, a guardian soldier. Its body was smooth metal and light, its eyes burning blue. "By the order of the Queen," it said in a calm, echoing voice, "the human will be erased." Evan raised his rifle and fired. The bullets passed through the creature like smoke. It didn't even flinch. Lyra stepped forward, raising her glowing hand. The warden paused, almost uncertain. "Lyra of Seraphim," it said slowly, "you should not be here." "Leave him alone," she said. Her voice trembled, but her eyes glowed fiercely. "He saved me." The warden tilted its head. "The Queen will not understand." "Then tell her," Lyra shouted. "Tell her Evan Cole is not the enemy." The warden hesitated, flickering, torn between 2 commands. Evan watched, barely breathing. Then, with a sudden burst of light, the warden dissolved into energy and vanished upward, retreating. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. Evan knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "She knows now. She's seen you through me." Evan frowned. "Good or bad?" Lyra looked up, tears shining on her cheeks. "She's angry." A tremor shook the ground again. The Queen's voice returned, louder this time. "Evan Cole of Earth, you dare touch what is mine? You dare protect her from me?" The air itself burned blue. Evan lifted Lyra and ran toward the open ridge at the edge of the cave. Outside, the frozen plains glowed under the Queen's storm. Her ship filled half the sky, a colossal shape of silver and fire. Beams of light moved like arms, reaching for them. Evan shouted over the wind, "We can't run forever, kid." Lyra looked up, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Then don't run." She raised both hands. The storm slowed. The Queen's voice faltered for the first time. "Lyra, my child?" Lyra's tears glowed like small stars. "Stop hurting them, Mother. Stop burning the worlds." Silence. For a long moment, the whole planet seemed to hold its breath. Then the Queen spoke again, softer this time. "Come to me, and I will stop." Evan's heart pounded. He could see the pain in Lyra's eyes. She looked at him. The man who had carried her, protected her, believed in her. "If I go," she whispered, "she'll let you live." Evan shook his head. "If you go, she'll never let me live, and she'll never stop." The wind picked up again. The Queen's ship began to descend lower, cracking the ice below them. Evan raised his rifle. "You said she doesn't listen?" Lyra nodded. "No one makes her stop," he smiled faintly. "Then we'll make her listen the hard way." As the light of the Queen's ship engulfed them both, Evan wrapped his coat around Lyra again and whispered, "Hold on tight." The beam swallowed them, and the world exploded in blue fire. The light faded slowly. When Evan Cole opened his eyes, everything was quiet. Too quiet. He lay on his back in the snow, the sky above him a deep, dark blue filled with drifting sparks. Smoke curled up from the shattered ground around him. His ears rang, his visor cracked. For a moment he couldn't move. He just stared at the falling snowflakes landing on his armor, melting instantly. Then he remembered. Lyra! He sat up fast, wincing as pain shot through his ribs. His coat was torn, his weapon gone. He looked around wildly until he saw her, lying only a few meters away, half covered in ash and ice. He crawled to her, pulling her up into his arms. Come on, kid. Stay with me. Her eyes fluttered open. Faint light glowed beneath her skin again. I'm okay, she whispered. You didn't leave me, Evan smiled weakly. I told you, didn't I? I don't leave people behind. But as he looked around, his smile vanished. The entire valley was gone, replaced by a blackened crater stretching for miles. The Queen's ship hovered in the distance, half shrouded by clouds. Suddenly, his helmet picked up a transmission. Human command to all units. Enemy Queen located. Destroy on sight. Recover or eliminate missing soldier Evan Cole. He's gone rogue. Evan stared at the broken transmitter in disbelief. They think I'm working with her, he muttered. Lyra touched his shoulder gently. Both sides will hunt us now, he sighed. Then we'd better not make it easy for them. He helped her to her feet. The storm had ended, but the cold still bit deep. They began walking toward the mountain range to the north, the only cover in sight. Each step crunched in the snow, echoing in the silence. Above them, small lights moved, human drones scanning the ruins. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered softly. One by one, the lights blinked out. Evan looked at her. You just shut down an entire patrol. She nodded. They listened to energy. I changed the song. He frowned. You changed. The song? Lyra smiled faintly. Everything sings, Evan. Machines, stars, even people. You just don't hear it yet. Evan didn't reply. He was too busy watching the horizon, and what was rising over it. A line of bright fire streaked across the sky, a fleet of human warships entering orbit. Their engines roared like thunder. At the same time, several smaller Seraphim crafts shot upward to meet them. The air filled with flashes of light as both sides opened fire. The war had started again. Evan and Lyra ran into the mountains as explosions shook the world behind them. Snow avalanches fell from cliffs. Fire streaked across the sky like falling suns. They reached a cave hidden under a cliff of ice. Evan guided Lyra inside. It was dark and narrow, but warm enough to breathe. He built a small fire using old mining fuel cells. Lyra sat close to him, her glowing hands warming the air better than any heater. She watched the flames quietly. Why do humans fight so much? Evan stared into the fire. Because we're scared. We fight what we don't understand. She tilted her head. And me? Do you understand me? Evan smiled a little. Not yet, but I'm trying. Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. Mother says humans destroy everything they touch. Evan's eyes darkened. She's not wrong. But some of us try to fix what's broken too. Silence filled the cave. Outside, distant explosions painted the ice in red light. After a while, Evan stood. We can't stay here. The Queen and my people will track us. Where will we go? Lyra asked softly. He pointed toward a faint light far to the east. There's an old temple. My ship's maps mentioned it. Alien markings, pre-war. Maybe we'll find something there. They set off again under the cover of darkness. The landscape turned stranger as they moved closer. Frozen statues of unknown creatures. Half-buried ruins and walls covered in glowing patterns. It felt like walking through a graveyard of gods. When they finally reached the temple, Evan stopped in awe. It wasn't made of metal or stone. It looked like pure crystal, shining softly from within. And on its walls were carvings of humans and seraphim standing together, holding hands surrounded by stars. Evan's heart pounded. What is this place? Lyra stepped forward, her fingers tracing the carvings. A memory. From before the war. Before we forgot each other, Evan frowned. You're saying humans and seraphim were once allies? Lyra nodded slowly. More than that. We were one. Long ago, before we became different. Evan took a deep breath. The truth hit him like a storm. Maybe this whole war, everything, was built on a lie. But before he could say more, a sharp noise cut through the silence. The whir of engines. Shadows flickered across the temple walls. Evan spun around. Lights approached fast from both sides. Hovercrafts, drones, soldiers, human and seraphim forces. Both had found them. Lyra clutched his arm. They'll kill you. Evan gritted his teeth. Not if I can help it. He aimed his rifle and fired at the first drone, blasting it into pieces. The temple glowed brighter as stray shots hit the crystal walls, sending ripples of energy through the floor. Lyra stepped forward. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice echoing through the air. Every machine froze. Every gun jammed. A pulse of light burst from her, spreading across the battlefield. Soldiers on both sides dropped their weapons, covering their eyes. When the light faded, Lyra stood glowing like a star. Calm, powerful, and unafraid. Her voice filled the air. "No more fighting. I won't let you hurt him." The soldiers hesitated, confused. Even the Seraphim drones stopped moving. Then, far above, the Queen's ship shifted, the largest cannon aiming down at the temple. Evan's heart stopped. "Lyra!" But Lyra only looked up and whispered, "Mother, please." "Listen." The cannon charged with blinding light. The ground trembled. And as the first blast fell, Evan threw himself around Lyra, wrapping her in his arms once again. The sky split open, and the ancient temple answered. Its walls exploded with blue fire, shooting beams upward to block the Queen's attack. For a second, everything froze in perfect silence. Light against light, mother against daughter. Then came the shockwave, and the world vanished into a storm of light. When the light finally faded, there was silence, deep and endless. The storm was gone. The air was still. Evan Cole opened his eyes slowly. The temple around him was shattered, glowing cracks running through the crystal walls like veins of light. Ash drifted down like snow. His ears rang and his armor was half melted from the blast. He looked around, coughing. "Lyra?" At first, there was no answer. Then a faint glow appeared through the smoke, soft and blue. Lyra stood in the middle of the ruined temple, unharmed, her silver hair floating gently as if in water. Her eyes burned like stars. Evan stumbled toward her. "You're alive." Lyra looked at him quietly. "So are you." But something in her tone was different, distant. She turned her gaze upward. Above the broken roof, the sky burned with blue fire. A massive shape descended from the clouds, the Seraphim Queen. Her form was not entirely solid. She appeared as a towering figure of light and shadow, wings made of starlight spreading across the heavens. Her voice echoed like thunder and music together. "My daughter, at last I have found you." Evan raised his weapon, but his hands trembled. Even his armor sensors overloaded, trying to measure her power. Lyra took a small step forward. "Mother." The Queen's eyes glowed brighter. "You were taken from me. You suffered because of them." Her gaze fell on Evan and her voice turned cold. "The human who stole my child. The one who touched royal blood." Evan took a breath and stood firm. "I didn't steal her. I saved her life." The Queen's laughter rolled across the mountains like thunder. "You think mercy can erase what your kind has done? How many Seraphim died by your hands?" Evan's voice was steady, though his heart pounded. "Too many, but killing more won't bring them back." Lyra turned between them, desperate. "Please stop this. Both of you. The war doesn't matter anymore." The Queen ignored her. "He poisons your mind, child." "Come to me," Lyra shook her head. "You don't see him like I do. He's not like the others. She stopped as the Queen raised her hand. A wall of blue energy appeared between them, forcing Evan backward. He hit the ground hard, his rifle sliding away. "Silence," the Queen said. "You have no right to speak of what you do not understand." Lyra pressed her hands against the barrier. Tears glowed on her cheeks. "Mother, please." "He's good." The Queen's light flickered. "You are young. You don't remember the truth." Evan pushed himself up, coughing. "Then tell us." The Queen looked down at him, her voice like ice. "You humans were born from us." The words echoed through the temple, heavy and impossible. Evan froze. "What?" The Queen's voice softened slightly. "Before your species learned to build machines, before your cities touched the sky, we shared one world. One blood. Humans and Seraphim were sisters of the same creation. But fear divided us. You turned against the stars and we left you behind." Lyra whispered. "Mother, the carvings. The temple shows it." The Queen nodded. "This place was a memory of what we were, until your ancestors came again with warships and fire." Evan shook his head slowly. "No, it can't be. We were told your kind attacked first." The Queen's eyes glowed brighter. "Lies told to hide your guilt." But Lyra stepped closer to her mother, her voice trembling. "And yet, you kill them now, Mother. You burn their worlds. How is that different from what they did?" The queen fell silent. The question seemed to wound her more than any weapon. Evan looked up at her, breathing hard. You said fear divided us. Maybe it still does. But it doesn't have to end that way. The queen turned her gaze back to him. You speak boldly for one who stands on the edge of death. I've already died a few times tonight, he said with a faint smile. For a moment, something changed in her expression. A flicker of something ancient, almost human. Then the air split with a roar. Human warships broke through the clouds, firing missiles at the queen's vessel. Blue fire met red light as the battle began again above their heads. The queen's power flared and she screamed in fury. They never learn. She raised her arms and lightning crashed down from the sky, striking the ships. Evan shouted, Lyra, stop her! Lyra closed her eyes and stepped between them. Her glow brightened until it blinded both of them. Enough, she cried, her voice echoing through the air like 1,000 bells. A pulse of energy burst outward, freezing everything. Light, sound, even time. The snow stopped falling. The wind stopped blowing. For a heartbeat, the world was still. When the light faded, Evan was on his knees. The queen stood frozen in place, her energy dimmed, her wings fading. Lyra fell to the ground beside him, weak and trembling. Evan caught her in his arms. Hey! You did it. You stopped her. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. She's not the enemy, Evan. She was trying to protect me. He frowned. Protect you from what? Lyra looked up, eyes wide with fear. From something worse. The Warden of Stars. The one who broke our bond long ago. Evan's blood ran cold. The what? Lyra's hand glowed faintly as she touched his chest. He's the reason we forgot each other. He feeds on war. Above them, the queen stirred again, her form flickering weakly. She looked down at them, her voice soft and sad now. The Warden still lives? Lyra nodded. He's coming, Mother. He knows I'm alive. Evan looked from one to the other, realizing the truth. The war between humans and Seraphim was only the surface of something far darker. The queen lowered her hand, her eyes filled with pain. Then we must prepare. Evan stared up at her glowing form, his voice low. You mean, work together? The queen's wings dimmed. For now. But know this, human. If you betray her, I will tear the stars themselves to reach you. Evan nodded slowly. Fair enough. Outside, the sky still burned with the fire of two armies. But deep inside the broken temple, something new began. An uneasy alliance. As the queen's ship retreated and the snow fell again, Evan held Lyra close. Her small hand rested on his chest, her heartbeat steady against his armor. For the first time, he saw hope in her eyes. But far above, beyond the clouds, something ancient stirred. Watching. A voice whispered through the void, calm and cruel. So the child lives. And the queen remembers. The game begins again. The night had never been so quiet. The storm was gone, the sky clear for the first time in days. Shattered mountains and frozen lakes reflected the faint glow of two moons. Evan Cole sat on a broken stone beside the ruins of the Crystal Temple, his armor cracked and covered in frost. A small fire burned weakly nearby, one of the last working flares from his pack. Across from him, the Seraphim Queen stood motionless, her towering form made of fading light. Even weakened, her presence felt like the weight of 1,000 suns. And between them, sitting silently, was Lyra, her silver eyes fixed on the horizon. She had barely spoken since the battle. Her glow had dimmed, her energy low, but she was alive. Evan finally broke the silence. You should rest. Lyra shook her head. He's coming. Rest won't help. The queen's voice echoed softly like wind through glass. She is right. The Warden of Stars feeds on the energy of fear and war. He will sense the peace we try to build, and he will come to break it. Evan frowned. Then we fight him. The queen turned her gaze toward him, her tone sharp. You cannot fight what you cannot see. The Warden is not a soldier. He is a shadow that moves between minds, twisting truth, turning allies into enemies. Evan crossed his arms. Then we make sure we don't turn on each other. Lyra looked up at him with a small smile. You always say simple things, Evan. But they sound like hope. He smirked faintly. That's all I've got left. A faint hum rolled through the ground. The queen's wings flared weakly. He is near. The air shimmered. The stars above flickered one by one as if being swallowed by an invisible tide. Then the night split apart. A tall figure appeared in the sky made of black light and silver fire. It had no face, only shifting shadows and a deep, cold voice that echoed everywhere at once. Queen of Seraphim, human soldier, child of both worlds, you have disturbed the balance. Evan raised his weapon even though he knew it wouldn't matter. And who the hell are you supposed to be? I am the Warden of Stars, Keeper of Silence. You were meant to destroy each other, not unite. The Queen stepped forward, her body blazing brighter. You tore our kind apart. You poisoned both our worlds. It ends now. The Warden's laughter was like a storm of glass breaking. You cannot end what was never born. You are fire, he is clay. You are not meant to stand together, Evan shouted. Funny, we're doing it anyway. He turned to Lyra. Stay behind me. Lyra's small hand touched his shoulder. No, Evan, I have to stand with you. The Queen raised her arm, summoning her last strength. Blue lightning cracked across the sky, striking the Warden's form. But it passed through him like mist. The Warden extended a hand, and the Queen was thrown backward, crashing into the mountainside. Evan ran toward her, shouting, No! But Lyra didn't move. She walked forward, calm and fearless, her silver hair flowing like flame. Warden, she cried, her voice echoing across the plains. You used us. You made us hate each other. Hatred is the purest form of order, the Warden replied. Without it, there is chaos. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. Then I will bring chaos. She lifted her hands. A beam of light erupted from her chest, spiraling upward, touching the stars. Evan shielded his eyes. The ground trembled. The Queen's weak voice reached her daughter through the wind. Lyra, stop. You'll burn yourself. But Lyra only smiled softly. I am the bridge, Mother. This is what I was born for. The Warden screamed, a sound like a dying world. The beam pierced through him, tearing his shadowed form apart. Light exploded in every direction, washing the battlefield clean. When the glow faded, the Warden was gone. Only quiet remained. Evan dropped to his knees, blinking away tears and smoke. He saw Lyra lying still on the ground, her glow fading. He crawled to her, shaking. Lyra, hey, come on, kid. Don't you dare. Her eyes opened slowly, weak but peaceful. I told you I'd change the song, she whispered. Evan's voice cracked. You did more than that. You saved us all. The Queen approached, her form flickering, half translucent. She knelt beside them, her massive hand glowing faintly above her daughter. Her energy is spent, she said softly. But she lives. For now, Evan looked up at the Queen. Can't you heal her? Not here. Her light needs time. And peace. Something this world has not known for ages. Evan nodded slowly. He looked toward the horizon where dawn was beginning to break, a pale golden light spreading across the ice. Lyra smiled weakly. It's beautiful. Evan held her hand gently. It's the first sunrise this planet's had in years. The Queen stood, her gaze fixed on the light. Perhaps the first of many. She looked down at Evan, her voice calm. You have my thanks, human. You saw her not as a weapon, but as a child. Evan managed a tired smile. Guess that's one thing humans are good at, being stubborn about what's right. The Queen almost smiled, a flicker of warmth across her radiant face. Then perhaps your kind still deserves the stars. Her wings spread wide, light cascading through the valley. She rose slowly into the sky, her voice echoing one last time. Take care of her, Evan Cole. She is the dawn of both our worlds. Evan watched her vanish beyond the clouds. He turned back to Lyra. She was asleep now, breathing softly, her glow pulsing faintly under his coat. He lifted her gently and started walking toward the rising sun. Every step was heavy, but his heart felt lighter than it had in years. As the light grew stronger, he whispered, You changed everything, Lyra. Maybe now, we finally have a chance. High above, among the fading stars, a shattered piece of the Warden's armor drifted through the void. Its broken core flickered once, then again, a quiet, cold voice whispered from the darkness. The dawn is only the beginning. And somewhere on that frozen world, a new chapter waited to be written, the story of a human and an alien child who dared to change the fate of two species. The end. For now,